This is a short video on simple interest. Although simple interest is not very practical, and in real life most interest is accumulated by a compound method, we have to do simple interest in this curriculum. The formula for simple interest is different from the way we've been solving percent problems up until now. We're not going to use two equivalent fractions and cross multiply. We're going to use this formula. P stands for the principal, which is the amount of money you're going to invest or the amount of money that you're going to borrow. R stands for the rate of interest. The rate must always be converted to a decimal. That's going to be really important for your calculations. T stands for the time, and the time must always be converted into years. Now you know as well as I do that I'll probably never give you a question where it's based on 1 year of interest or 2 years of interest. It'll always be some weird number like a month or a week or a day. So here's the hints you need to know. If it's given in years like a 2 year, the T becomes a 2, simple. If the time happens to be given to you in months, say it was 6 months, for months you need to divide by 12. So in your question you would put, instead of a 6, for 6 months you put 6 over 12, which of course is a half a year. If your time happens to be in weeks, you're going to have to make a conversion, dividing it by 52 weeks in a year. If the time happens to be given to you in days, there's 365 days in a year. And assume that, unless you're told it's a leap year, there'd be one more. Let's put this into a practical question, which isn't really practical, but we'll pretend like it is. Let's just say you want to go and buy yourself a brand new generator, because in the Maritimes, winters can be hell. There's a generator on for $1,049.99 at Crappy Tire. It's an 8,000 watt Briggs & Stratton generator. Good one. Decent amount of money. Okay, now that generator, if you're going to buy that generator, let's say you don't have enough money, and you go get a loan. And that loan is offered at a simple interest rate of 4.5%. 4.5% is the rate of interest, and you're going to borrow that money for 5 months. What I want to know is, what is it going to cost you to borrow that money for 5 months, and how much do we have to pay back? The first thing you do is write down your formula. The interest on a loan that's accumulating simple interest is found by taking the principal amount you're going to borrow, multiplying it by the rate, multiplying it by the time. So we're going to borrow $1,049.99. Now the rate, 4.5% becomes, of course, 4.5%. But 4.5% is still a percentage. That must get converted to a decimal. You need to divide it by 100. So you're going to get 0.045 as a decimal. 4.5 divided by 100. Now the time. In the simple interest formula, the time is always written in years. We're not even going to borrow the money for a whole year. So our time is going to be 5 over 12. Now if you listen to this advice, you probably won't make any mistakes in this section. The first thing I suggest that you do on your calculator is take your 5 divided by 12. You're going to get a number approximately equal to 0.41666. Don't so much write that down as much as just look at it, see if it's reasonable. That's approximately about half, a little under half, that makes sense, a little under half a year. So do 5 divided by 12, keep that number on your calculator, then multiply it by 0.045, multiply that answer by the $1,049.99. Do it all in one step, no writing any numbers down, no rounding, exact. If you do all that, you should get an answer of 19.6873. That's what your calculator, something like that, roughly. That's money. I am never going to tell you how to round money. So your job then is to take the 7, round the 8 up to $19.69. And that's the amount of interest you're going to have to pay on top of paying back the original loan of $1,049.99. That's the interest. If you have to figure, if the question's asking you to repay, you've got to repay. So 99 is 18. Carry the 1, 15, 16. Carry the 1, 18, 19. Carry the 1, 1,000. And 69.68 is the total you've got to pay back to whoever you borrowed from. The interest plus the original amount. Let's do a B part to that question. What if the money was borrowed for 14 weeks? So you have $1,049.99, the same rate of interest, 0.045 or 0.045 as a decimal, which is 4.5%. But now we're going to borrow that money for 14 weeks. A little bit different amount of time. 14 weeks is a little over 3 months, but the months doesn't matter. 14 weeks is the key. 14 weeks is not a whole year. So to be converted into years, you would do 14 divided by 52. On your calculator, you can do any number you want first. I would suggest that you start with the 14 divided by 52, like 0.26 something, 0.27, times that by the 0.045, multiply it by 1,049. You're going to get an interest amount of $12.72 when you round the nearest cent. That's for 14 weeks of a loan. And the 14 weeks got written over a denominator of 52 because there's 52 weeks in a year. If I want to make that question a C part to the question, say I'm going to borrow that money for 75 weeks, then it doesn't change. The bottom never changes. There's 52 weeks in a year, so for 75 weeks, it would be 75 divided by 52. Multiply that by your percent, multiply it by your amount. The rate obviously would be higher because it's more than a year. Do the calculations, and you're going to get approximately, if you round, $68.15. No matter what, the denominator of your time is always going to be, weeks is 52, days is 365, months will be 12. Let me give you one more example. Say you're going to borrow the same amount of money, but you went to a bit of a loan shark, and they are offering you a higher rate of 8 1/3%. And they'll only loan you the money for 125 days. 125 days, a little over 3 months. Let's figure out the interest. So 8 1/3%, the first thing you have to do is take 1 divided by 3. That's 8.33333 repeating. That's still a percentage. So on my calculator, I would do 1 divided by 3, add the 8, get 8.333 divided by 100. So that number is going to be on the calculator. Keep it on your calculator so it's no rounding in the middle step. No rounding. Now organize your thoughts by writing down your formula. The interest is the principal multiplied by the rate, multiplied by the time. So the p-value we know. The rate is going to be on your calculator and exact. This is an approximation. And then 125 divided by 365. So if you have the 0.08333 in your calculator, times that by 125, divide it by 365, and then go back and keep it all together and multiply by 1,049.99 and get the whole answer all in one step. Check your math. You should get a value in your calculator of 29.96 and so on. So make sure you get that number. You can do it many ways. 125 divided by 365, multiply that by the 0.0833, just fill a bunch of 3's in till you get to the end of your calculator, and then by 1,049. Long story short, when you do rounding to the nearest cent, it should be $29.97. That's your interest for 125 days for a loan. If you want to know the total to repay, you've got to add the amount together, your 1,049 that you borrowed, plus your 29.97 to get your grand total 1,079.96 to repay. So all simple interest questions, make sure your time is converted into years, make sure your decimal percentage is, or your percentage is changed into a decimal by dividing by 100. Watch your rounding to the nearest cent, and if you're asked the amount to repay, don't forget to add on the original amount that you borrowed or were loaned to get the total. Thank you.